Ooh, a spider boss. Let me tell you, there is nothing I like more than spiders. Like most things involving spiders, this fight was designed and directed by Sam Raimi. So obviously, the way to win is just sit back and wait until phase 3 when the boss gets emo and self-destructs in her own self-pity. Maybe not quite. Whenever this diddly fire spider is not being engaged in heated combat, she likes to spend her time hanging upside down, texting back and forth with Alice, a Resor, on the other side of the Firelands. I wonder what they're saying. Oh my god, Alice, it is like so hot out here. LOL, tell Rag to turn on the AC. Oops, totally gotta run. Adventurers Inc. Oh my god, Beth, you better hope they didn't watch LearntoRaid's guide on how to kill you. Man, these new Firelands bosses are smart. Beth'tilac is a two-phase fight. Phase 1 is all about ad control, while Phase 2 is a huge DPS burn. The boss herself has around 34 million HP. Throughout the fight, she will spawn Cinderweb spinners, Cinderweb drones, and Cinderweb spiderlings, with around 310,000, 2.4 million, and 77,000 HP each. You'll want to bring 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers, and favor ranged DPS. Let's look at the abilities. We'll start with Beth and then cover her ads. Whenever no players are on top of the web to engage the boss, Beth'tilac will continuously burn all players with her Ember Flare ability. This deals moderate ticking fire damage until she is engaged. Players on top of the web will need to be wary of her Meteor Burn. Meteors will fall into the web and deal moderate fire damage to those caught underneath. The meteor will also burn a hole in the web. Whenever Beth's fire energy reaches 0, the Pyromaniac will light herself ablaze, killing all players above the web. Finally, she is capable of consuming spiderling ads. Each one she consumes will heal her for 10% of her health. Throughout Phase 1, the raid will need to deal with 3 types of ads. Cinderweb spinners and drones frequently use the Burning Acid ability. This will cause them to shoot burning venom at a random player, dealing mild fire damage. Drones, like the boss, are also capable of consuming spiderlings. Each one they devour will heal them for 20% of their health, as well as increase movement and attack speed by 20%. Spiderlings have the ability Seeping Venom. These ads will leap onto a random player and inject them with venom. The venom ticks for mild fire damage over 10 seconds. In Phase 2, the ads will cease to spawn and the raid will fight Beth'tilac directly. During this phase, she will use the Frenzy ability. Her damage increases by 5% and stacks as the fight goes on. Her Ember Flare ability will continue, and she is still capable of consuming any spiderlings left alive. Occasionally, she will debuff her main aggro target with the Widow's Kiss. This will cause the amount of healing the player can receive to go down over a short period of time. This player will also deal increasing fire damage to all nearby allies. You'll begin the fight by deciding how to properly split up your raid. You will need one team to handle ads down below and make sure not to be overrun, while a second special ops team, we'll call them Web Team 6, will infiltrate her web and face Beth'tilac head on. Choose one tank, one healer, and 1 to 2 DPS to send up top. Ranged DPS is preferred below, as ads will oftentimes be spread out and the spinners are easier to DPS. The raid should decide on a central stack point to ease the healing required. When the fight begins, multiple spinners will spawn above the raid. Focus DPS on these to kill them quickly. Each time a spinner dies, a player can use their fallen web to climb up to Beth'tilac. Until Beth is engaged directly, she will continue to burn your raid and strain healing. As soon as a spinner dies, your top tank should ride the web up and use a cooldown to survive tanking the boss until the healer can follow them. The tank must always be the first up in order to survive Beth's melee attacks. Once the tank and healer are up, the DPS assigned to this task will follow. Down below, the tank will need to pick up the drone and drag it slightly out of the raid. This is to provide more time for spiderlings to be AoE'd down, since they will attempt to make their way to the drone. Your raid may choose to assign different players to different spiderling spawn points in order to efficiently AoE them down, but for others, Stacking in the middle of the room and AoEing from a distance will work just as well. DPS will be stretched to find a balance between killing all of the adds, but the basic priority is spinners first, followed by spiderlings, followed by drones. As long as the raid can keep up with the spawns, you are in good shape. Players up top will need to keep a close eye on Beth'tilac. When her fire energy reaches 0, she will begin to cast Smoldering Devastation. Find a hole in the web to fall through when this cast begins and return to the safety of the ground. Anybody caught still on the web when Devastation goes off will be devastated. Upon returning to the ground, the priority is getting spinners killed again to ride the webs back up and repeat the cycle. An important note is that whenever the top team comes down, the boss will spam Ember Flare. Don't be afraid to use raid cooldowns during these short periods to help alleviate the healing that's required. Once Beth'tilac has casted Smoldering Devastation 3 times, Phase 2 will begin. In preparation for this, make sure to finish off any adds left alive during or shortly before her final devastation cast. It is exceptionally important to finish off spiderlings, as she will come to the ground for Phase 2 and could land directly on them. These will almost certainly out-heal any damage you did in Phase 1. Phase 2 is a heavy DPS burn. The raid damage will constantly go up due to her frenzy, and later in the phase you will need to rotate raid cooldowns in order to survive. If your raid is quick, you can work out an order on the fly out of necessity, but it may be a good idea to decide on the order before pulling. For instance, when the boss gets to 10 stacks of Frenzy, Aura Mastery. When this buff falls, use Spirit Link Totem followed by Power Word Barrier followed by Tranquility. The cooldowns available to your raid may be different of course, but the idea is still the same. Try to save Lust or Hero until later in the phase to help heal through the increasing damage. During all of this, tanks will need to be mindful of their Widow's Kiss debuff. Whenever a tank is hit with this, the off tank will need to taunt the boss. It is also important that the 2 tanks do not stand too close to each other for risk of dealing fire damage to one another. Once your raid can consistently make it to Phase 2, a kill is imminent. Stay focused in Phase 1 and stay cool in Phase 2. This is the kind of fight where it is easy to get excited and lose focus at a critical moment. If you enjoyed this guide and found it helpful, remember to bookmark us at LearntoRaid.com, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Justin TV and Twitter. Thanks for checking us out here at Learn to Raid. As always, we hope this guide was helpful, and we'll see you at the next boss.
I wasn't feeling so good. I just didn't feel like playing anymore. So I went home, and I got all comfy and cozy and all scrunched up in front of my phonograph. And I sat there and I closed